welcome you to the regular meeting of the Perry Municipal Authority. It is November 19th, 2018. Roll call, Dixie.
Koldern.
Here.
Gilbert. Here. Franklin.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Ahern.
Here.
Seabolt. Here. Morrell.
Here.
Stroller.
Here.
Johnson.
Here, I do declare a quorum. I'm going to impose upon Bill Streller to give our invocation this evening.
You bet. Would y'all pray with me, please? Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to say thank you for all the blessings you bestow upon us every day. The blessings we know of, the blessings we see, the blessings we don't even know. Above and beyond that, your grace and mercies that you show us throughout our life and throughout our times of trials. Dear Heavenly Father, I just ask that you be with us this evening as we conduct the business for the city. I ask you that you clear our minds and let us all think as one for the betterment of the city. Whatever comes out this evening, I just ask that it will glorify you. We pray this through your Son's name. Amen.
And thank you, Bill. We'll move to item number 1, which is the consent agenda. Has one item, which is A, receive and approve the minutes of the regular PMA meeting of November 5, 2018. Do we have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Dixie.
Koldern.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrell.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. We'll move to item 4, comments from those assembled concerning the PMA this evening. Any comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, proclamations, commendations, reports and inquiries by the governing body. Staff, council, any reports you wish to give? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Any new business? Item 7.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you. Roll call, Dixie.
Koldern.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrell.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. I now call to order the regular meeting of the City Council, City of Perry. It is November 19th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Koldern.
Here.
Gilbert. Here. Franklin.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Ahern.
Here.
Seabolt. Here. Morrell.
Here.
Stroller.
Here.
Johnson.
Here, I do declare a quorum. Item 1, consent agenda, items A through G. Any of those you'd like to take up separately, make your nomination, or we need a motion for approval as presented.
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Dixie.
Koldern.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrell.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Item 4, comments from those assembled. Anyone wishing to make comments about the council meeting this evening, please do so now. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, proclamation, commendation, reports, and inquiries by the governing body. Any reports? Only the one from number 6, our city manager. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to encourage our residents to shop local. Coming up November 24th, Saturday, the Shop Small Saturday here in downtown Perry. Small businesses would certainly would appreciate your participation and your support. Also on on Friday, December 7th, city employees will be gathering at 11 o'clock for their annual Christmas luncheon at one time of the year where we sit down as a work family for food and fellowship. Wanted to say that this event is funded solely through donations from individuals and businesses within the community. And if any business or individual is so inclined this year to donate, we certainly would appreciate donations for this event. You can check with City Clerk Dixie Johnson at City Hall. And we really do appreciate the support of the city and the community in this. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Hope y'all did take time to read the Messenger and the Envoy this month. Item 7, Chief Financial Officer report. He's on vacation. If we have any questions or concerns, he's watching us. So on YouTube. So happened that he was out of town vacation. And his cohort in crime, Meredith, come down with the flu or something, blue flu or something like that. So anyway, we will get him to go into detail next meeting. Let's move on to item 8. Consider approval of certain sanitary sewer work to be performed at or near 1218 and 1223 Delaware with a third-party contractor upon receipt of easements from property owners. We do have those easements. Bryce got them today. And for those of you who weren't aware, an individual decided he was going to do his own sanitary sewer repairs and made a big mistake, and the line is damaged. It'll have to be rebuilt. And we have estimates under tab 8 of what it's going to cost to rebuild that line.
And I just got them today, they're in the, what was handed out.
Yeah, your handout, sorry. So you can see it's not cheap to repair a main of any size. Vernon's here if you have any questions concerning this. He went out and visited the project and took some escorts. So if you have any questions, Vernon, would you like to speak?
Vernon, would you just give us a small, short synopsis of what you found and what's going on?
Is that the two
process?
proposals you have here from Urban
Yes.
and Drift Reynolds? Okay.
We did ask for another one from Licking
It
Bill.
was supposed to be from Luckinville, and they hadn't got back with them. So, last Tuesday, I was called up on a sewer line up at 1223 Delaware, and the guy hand dug, well, he dug with a track hoe down about 4 foot, and then hand dug the other, I think it's about 6 foot, it's about 11 foot deep, down. And when he did, he was following his riser down. When he got down there, he knocked the top of the 12-inch main clay tile sewer line out. Well, it's about a foot and a half to 2 foot underneath the edge of the house is where that lies. So in order to fix it, we would have to excavate a lot bigger hole. The two proposals I got, one was to do a pipe bursting to put it back as a temporary thing, and then the other is to do an open cut and move it 10 foot over away from the house so that we don't have the issue again. We have 2 other houses across the road that are also need to be tied back in when that's done.
So the bursting is a temporary fix?
Well,
It's not ideal.
it's not ideal to leave it underneath the houses, because right now we're underneath that property and the one across the road.
I see, okay.
I can't give an estimate on how long, the pipe would last. It's poly pipe, but I know they guaranteed a 30-year, but it's not the permanent solution. The permanent solution would be to move it over out from underneath the house. I think they're doing a 10-foot offset off of that house. I believe we got plenty of room in our easement. I hadn't seen them yet to know what our easement was through there. I know she just got them this afternoon to find it, so I'm not exactly positive.
So I'm assuming that the more expensive estimate on the two is moving,
Yes, yeah,
and the
we
cheaper
have,
of the two are just to do the pipe bursting.
the pipe bursting from Kraft was 46,513, and then, from Urban is, 64,122. That's to put it back right where it's at and tie everybody back in, because we'd still have to end up tying the 2 back across the road back in. The moving of it is the 61,450, and the 88,755 would be the permanent solution.
Is there any liability on the person that damaged the main?
Yeah, sure. I mean, but the question is, what are the facts? Apparently, the homeowner was having settling occur, and so what caused that? I mean that's why it made him want to go into and start doing this work. Was it a plumber that was doing it?
No.
Or was it a third party? It was him that was doing it?
I believe his mother owns the property and he's living there, so he's a renter.
And he has a backhoe?
Huh?
He was doing it with a backhoe?
You can see where somebody had been digging with a backhoe. Now, whether it been him or someone else, I don't know. I know they'd gotten down, I think, as far as they could reach with that, so it must not have been a very big,
Right.
may have been a ditch, I don't know what it was. And then from that point, he hand dug the rest down with 5-gallon buckets and a shovel.
You know, the line, the easement that we have, and we actually have an easement under these lots, is from 1947. And the easement itself says that a line was placed there and that the city didn't know about it. That's what the easement itself says, but it's then granting the easement to us in both of those lots. Did you see a copy of that?
No, I have not seen it
Yeah,
yet.
it's down at City Hall. Sharon got that for us.
Yeah, because I'd asked her about it today, and then I told her that it extended farther out.
Now, in answer to your question, certainly, I mean, there's homeowners insurance, they damaged our line, you know. What was the composition of the line? Was it clay?
Mhm.
After 60, 70 years, I suppose, you know, they can tend, you know, to fail. I don't know what the facts are, but the truth is that, you know, he did damage our line, so certainly he's liable for that. It's just that it is our line, it's our sewer main, and how are we gonna fix it? Are we gonna allow a sewer line to remain under these two homes? Well, we have an easement for it. The other way is to go around, and because we got another bid to actually build it, you know, in a proposed easement, so it wouldn't go around. It was like $10,000 more. Which is the manner that you prefer?
I think if we were gonna do it, I think it's spend the extra and go ahead and get it out of there, out from underneath the homes, and then that way later on down the road, we won't have an issue.
And we do have an easement under it, you know, and we have a duty to maintain our sewer line. So it's all gonna come out on, you know, what are the facts, and I haven't investigated this. This just cropped up on Friday, right? Isn't that it?
Well, I started on Tuesday trying to get everything figured out what we were gonna do,
Yeah.
and then it escalated.
Yeah, it
from
came
there,
to me on Friday, and we talked about it, we sent it to Blaine, and then you got those
Yeah.
quotes. You know, it's somewhat of it is an emergency, and it's an open line, right?
Yes, we have an open hole. I've got it barricaded right now. It is by under, you know, next to the house. It's about 11 foot deep and maybe 6 by 4 right there. And I've got it barricaded now. Our issue is we did shut his water off on Friday. We notified him because every time he kept running the water in, we were filling up that main sewer line with mud and whatever, rock and everything. And it picks up more than just that little section right there. So we did shut that off. So we're gonna have to get something done since it is an open sewer line.
So, I mean, do you consider this an emergency?
Yes.
You know, that there's immediate threat of damage to property, damage to persons?
Yes.
And the like. So, you know, you can waive, if you do the 61,000, you can waive competitive bidding, the bidding and the notice, although we did solicit for business. You still need to have a contract and all the bonds. You just, if it's under that amount, we did it properly, we solicited bids. If you pick the one over that, the council will need to declare it an emergency, which only waives notice and bids. We still need to have a contract, all the bonds and like that, and we can put that, you know, together and get that going. And that is the way that you would prefer, correct?
I'd like to get it taken care of, yeah.
But before we do it, we've got to get easements. Or would it completely run in the easement then?
I don't know how wide the easement is. I know
It doesn't
there's-
say, it says,
Well, so
it says the two lots, so we probably have an easement wherever we want to put it, but if we're going to all this expense, I would rather have it surveyed and set, wouldn't you say, Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah. And so we're gonna need to get an easement, you know, issued, you know, for that before we would proceed with the contract.
Now, this first bid was Kraft Reynolds.
Yes.
They've done business with us before? or we've
Yes,
done
I believe it
business
was
with them?
phase 1 is the
Yeah,
one they
I
came in and
remember
done.
that.
So we have done business with them. And yeah, they were real good, you know, in what they did. They did the pipe bursting also.
Phase 1 and 2 did not get into this area though.
No.
Well, I figured that our line had to have been bad if he destroyed it with a shovel.
Well, that's right. The thing that, I don't know how bad it might have been. I know that his riser was right there, so that was where his connection was. And he was, the way he says, he was following it down and didn't know what he was finding, and when he got down, that's when he got into ours. So he was actually following his riser down.
You look at the photo and tell where that riser was.
Yes. And the other pieces of his riser are laying up on the dirt pile, and I should have got a picture of them, but they're full of tree roots. So, I mean, it was an issue just on his part of his being plugged up.
Well, if we need a motion, I'll make the motion we accept the $61,450 bid from Craft Rentals and proceed with the project.
Second.
Thank you.
Kolar.
Yes.
Thank you, Bernie.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes,
Johnson.
And that is the going around?
yes.
Okay,
So we need an emergency?
yeah, yeah, go ahead and declare the emergency.
Yes, we need emergency declaration. Did you declare it?
Motion on emergency.
Okay.
Second.
Roll call.
Kolar.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Thank you, council. Thank you, Vern.
Yes, I think we're good. Thank you, appreciate you
Thank you.
stopping by.
Next item, 9, matters pertaining to a CDBG grant number 17299-18 of the Master Sewer Project Phase 3. Comes in 4 parts. So, let me start off by saying, we looked at this at our, last summer, July 12th at our strategic planning, and voted then to continue these projects till they were finished. So item 9 matters. A, discussion and action to approve an anti-displacement plan for the sewer line replacement of project CDBG 1729918. That means someone would have to be relocated because of this project, and we are not relocating anyone. So we can fill that form out. And as y'all all know, Jennifer Fairguard is here this evening to straighten me out on anything I mess up. Item B, discussion and action to approve the leverage match form for the sewer line replacement of CDBG 1729918. That form is in here. That tells us we have our match to leverage this bond. C, discussion and action to approve the mayor to sign Form 7015.15 ROF certification for sewer line replacement, project CDBG 17299-18. This form is get the U.S. Department of Housing to release the grant money to us. Item D, discussion and action to approve the mayor to sign release funds documents to complete the environmental review process for sewer line replacement project CDBG 17299-18. That just gets the environmental complete. So those documents need to be signed. We need to approve those things, item A, 3, B, C, and D, individually. So we need motions on those. Have you checked the paperwork? Do you have any questions? Do you have motions?
Motion to approve item A.
Thank you. The second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Dixie.
Kolar.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Item B.
Motion on B.
Thank you. Bill, second.
Second.
Roll call.
Kolar.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Yes. Item C,
Motion to approve.
Second.
roll call.
Colern.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Item D,
Motion to approve D.
thank you, thank you. Roll call.
Colern.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Thank you, council, it's great to get through that. I know Jennifer's excited.
Very happy, yes.
All right, our next, we have two guests come up on this next item, item 10, pertaining to Phase 3 and Phase 4 of the sewer project. A, review the report of the engineer's estimate for Phase 3 sanitary sewer replacement project. B, review summary of work and the engineer's estimate for Phase 4 of the wastewater treatment plant influent lift station upgrade project. C, discussion regarding proposed utility system improvements, including an estimated cost, financing alternatives, and related utility rate adjustments. D, consider and take action with respect to Resolution 201814, authorizing professional services agreement, authorizing Municipal Financial Services Incorporated to seek financial proposals for utility systems improvements containing other proposals or provisions related thereto. Mr. Wolf, Mr. Brooks, here representing financial services. One, look at item A, the review of the engineer's estimate. Any questions or concerns or discussion? That's item 10 in your folder. Mr. Reilly put that together for us. This takes us from 15th to 9th Street through the neighborhood. What's the name of the neighborhood?
Hughes.
Division.
From 15th to 9th.
Yes,
That's Phase 3.
I know.
Phase 3 will actually go a little bit past 9th. About to where 8th would be.
That's not what we're showing here.
Huh?
I don't think that's what this map says.
I talked to Vernon, I wish he was still here. And then I talked to,
I know that's what you'd expect.
I talked to
originally,
somebody, I
through
can't
that
remember who it
pasture.
was, because Vernon and I was out there and they
It's
said it
going
went
through
all the way.
Brookwood Park also.
It went past 9th Street.
Yeah.
I think it's just on the other side.
Yeah, just on the other side of 9th
Connection that
Street,
they have to
about,
make there.
there's one manhole on the other side of 9th Street, which is about where 8th would be,
Okay.
if there was an 8th Street.
And that's the last. Yeah.
That's on Phase 3. And then Phase 4, I think, continues on.
And then, yeah, they're pipe bursting that under the road and then
Yeah.
continuing on. Now, phase 4, I thought was your treatment plant.
It is.
It is.
Phase 4 is true, isn't it?
But it didn't include the part of that sewer line out there? Like, on from,
No, it's mostly just improvements to the WWTP.
I thought those manholes and stuff across the hall property over to 7th Street, where that one's like really, really low on the other side of 7th Street.
My understanding that was phase 3.
You just said Phase 3 stopped at 9th Street.
On this map, I'm saying what we originally talked about was it went over there. But on this map, it looks like
Yeah.
it stops at 9.
Under proposed improvements in the second paragraph, it says the segment of existing sanitary sewer to be replaced is bounded on the west by 15th Street and the east by 9th Street.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what it's, I don't remember talking about.
I remember
Going
having
beyond
several
that.
conversations about those manholes in that pasture.
Yeah, and there's one right on the other side of 7th Street, which is actually in the bottom of the creek
I
almost.
don't remember what was in the documentation from back
Yeah.
then, but well, I do remember having.
I remember having that talk, and I thought it was in Phase 4.
I just remember him bringing it up, saying that
Yeah.
they're real low and
I've seen them
Number of
underwater.
times.
I've seen them underwater many times.
Taking water in.
Yeah, it's not in phase 4. I mean, it's not one of the listed items in phase 4. Those are just improvements to WWTP. I mean, I don't see any pipe or any manholes at all.
Does it leave us a gap then that we need to be filling?
Well, I would like to go back and research that to see where that went to, because I'm almost positive that was in phase 4.
I seem to remember, or not in 4, I remember it being in 3, but
I thought it was amended to 3.
I do remember it at least being covered
Yeah.
at one point.
And so specifically, what is that again? So I can,
From 9th Street East.
and that would be
There's
to
one
where-
hole on the east side of 9th Street now that's covered in phase 3.
Right.
And then it would be just about where 8th Street would be if
But we're talking all the way over to 7th.
to 7th. You used to call it the Streller Line's what you called it,
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
and now it's gone.
The Streller line needs to be included, I mean, because it's the Streller line project.
From here to here,
Is not being covered.
not being covered. And that's like
Well,
2 or 3 manholes, I can't remember exactly. I know there's a manhole here, and there's a manhole here
we just
that I've personally seen underwater, completely
talked
underwater.
about that at our last meeting.
We've talked about it
This
several times.
this manhole here is 3 feet lower than the street, and I've seen water go over the street.
So we need the sewer sleeve to run to 7th Street with the manholes improved? Is that essentially it?
I don't remember what's on the other side of 7th Street.
Mainly, right now, we need to adjust the tops of those manholes where they're above flood level, which is about.
Yeah, I think if you go, I think if you go in and put them taller risers on it, would probably be all right.
It's got, there's 3 manholes back there that need to be, their lids raised. Because when, like I said, water has occasionally gone over 9th Street. And it just runs into them,
So
they're
that's
about a
east
foot
of
below,
Lake Street.
2 foot below. You're looking at a $300 to $400 concrete cost to have those raised, each, and then put the lid back on. If a guy's doing a project. Go out there individually, it'd be much more than that. So,
Okay, we'll explain about that.
yeah,
We need to proceed and make that an add-on to the project.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can.
To the CDBG project that's currently going, no. The possibility of adding that would be if the original project is under budget and gets completed and there's extra funds, then we would have to get permission and a request for Department of Commerce, and they would say yes or no. We're not changing the scope of the project, which is good, we're just adding more lines to it. We just have to wait for how much money we actually expend. Since 4 is not funded, phase 4 is not funded, it possibly could be added to that.
Sure.
But the current CDBG, we'd have to wait and see.
Could we just do an add-on to the project, and if it costs us $3,000 or $4,000, just to have that contractor go raise those
Sure, we could
manholes?
change order 4 and have you do it.
But it would just be outside the
It would be
Yeah.
outside the scope of the
A
project.
non-participating change order.
Say that again?
What if we hired the contractor while he's there, the city did,
To do additional work.
and to do
outside the-
additional work
That's fine.
Okay.
I mean,
that had
you can
nothing to
that.
do with?
Right, as long as it's not tied to CDBG, but since he's there, you've contracted another job to continue while he's there, and you guys cover that on your own
Mhm.
pay system, then that's fine.
I think we need to have Vernon to go look at those manholes and see.
I would also like to understand though that line, we scoped all these lines and all that, I wanna make sure what the status of that line is there too, before we make any decisions on just raising them.
Well, Vernon spent about 8 hours out there in the freezing rain the other night.
So,
But
Okay.
But we're going ahead and approving these, item A of the grant for the master plan, see, phase 3 master plan.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second? We got a second?
Jim.
Yeah.
He was just quiet about
Very quiet.
Second.
Thank you.
Well,
Roll call, Dixon.
it. Colbert.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Akern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Moore.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. I want to make sure everyone has read this information, background information, everything. We're not going into this surprising anybody with anything. Number B, review the summary of work and engineer's estimate for phase 4 of the wastewater treatment plant influent lift station upgrade project. That's where we need a new lift station and other items at the plant to bring it up to, well, full function, actually.
And we have 3 pumps out there right now, we're going to 2, and both pumps will be larger, or 1 pump will be larger.
Benz, we didn't receive a REAP grant for phase 4. How are we gonna pay for this?
That's the next item C. Discuss.
Of all the things that are in front of you, this is probably the most critical.
I realize that.
Yeah, and we have folks here to talk about that.
Do you want to,
I just wish we had a CFO here to have a discussion with us.
I can get him on the phone if you want.
Well, it talks about, it says here about receiving bids at the same time which occurred before the end of the year. The city has received bids for the AMI project, and the CFO can inform the city council of how much extra funding and over and above is necessary for the AMI project is required to pay for phase 3 and phase 4.
Yeah, and I think that amount is $200,000. There'll be $200,000 left in that account that can be used and applied to, actually it's 200 and some change, but that project may have its own, issue, and that's taking the, we had a committee meeting today, you guys haven't approved it yet, but a committee meeting went over the AMI with Russ. Yeah, he's watching this, by the way. so-
Okay, Russ, you're on speaker.
I'm gonna have to pause this so I can't, so that double.
Russ, this is Bill. I was concerned, it talks about on here about how much overage we'll have on our AMI project to help pay for phase 3 and phase 4. Beans, we didn't get a REAP grant, how do you propose we pay for phase 4?
Well, the only way we're gonna be able to pay for phase 4 right now is to go out and do an additional borrowing. And, you know, based on the monies that we have set aside, what we have for phase 3, you know, we were gonna fund all of that out of the capital outlay dollars, that were the 75% money. And so that will that'll cover our match, you know, related to finishing up phase 3. Phase 4, is gonna have to be an additional borrowing, in order to do it at this time.
And that is what we talked about this summer. I mean, we talked about providing a sewer adder, that was what's gonna be happening. The new event is phase 4. I mean, that's what's changed since this summer when we talked about completing our master sewer plan, because that was unexpected. Perhaps it should have been expected. I mean, you've got to replace this stuff, but I mean, it's running on empty right now.
What is the cost for phase 4 by itself? 428,000?
428,500.
And then, of course, is the estimate. Although the landscape architect came within, what, $500 of his estimate, and and how the bids came in for the sidewalks, and that was for well over $1 million project.
1.4.
Huh?
1.4.
Yeah, 1.4 is within $500 of the engineering estimate. That is quite unusual. I mean, sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're lower, but they're never that close. But he has all the other numbers included in here, so you can use that, and that's based, a lot of it's based on equipment, the cost of, produce the equipment, which is, a harder cost than perhaps a labor cost.
Blaine did say that he thought that $428,500 was on the high side. He didn't expect it to go over that. He thought it was well over that. His estimate was a lot higher than it will actually come in.
So Russ, do you have an estimate on an adder to pay for that? For phase
Ask one
4?
more time, Brian.
Do you have an estimate to help pay for phase 4 through an adder?
Well, whenever we were talking about doing $1 million issue, we're looking at about $6 a meter. And the game plan was going to be to put that $6 adder would stay on until the time in which the debt we had accumulated enough cash to repay the debt, and then at that point let the adder fall off. The initial estimate of $6 at 3.75 for 10 years would cover the debt service on that $1 million.
What's the $1 million for?
$1 million is to do phase 4 and then to cover the balance of what was phase 3. Because we were borrowing the money from phase 3 out of our electric capital fund.
All right.
And so instead of, we'd repay the electric capital fund and put the money back there.
How soon do we have to do this? Now?
Well, we have to do phase 3. We already promised that we had the money for phase 3. So we need to ensure that we do have that money for phase 3, whether it's coming from electric capital, whether it's coming from reserve, or whether it's coming from what we talked about this summer. And pretty much, I'm not saying all agreed, because everyone, had their own, I don't know that a motion was taken, but, everyone,
We couldn't have had a motion.
Well, I mean, we had it for discussion and action, but I don't believe that we took any motions at that meeting, but we did discuss it, and so this is just, I mean, today's the day where the rubber meets the road, I mean, we talked about it then, phase 3, and how we were gonna make sure we did that. Russ, when we approved that CDBG grant, where were we planning to take the money from?
Out of the electric capital.
Okay. And the electric capital will get some money back from the sale of the Wadley property.
Of the Wadley properties, yes.
But if we pull that money out, that's going to kind of bring the electric capital fund down to what? 200,000?
We'll be under 200,000.
Yeah, which is very dangerous coming into a winter and freezes and all of that. I mean, that is a fund to protect our electric system.
We approved item A, item B.
Yeah, we already approved A, the phase 3.
So phase 4, we're up in the air on at this time. Or do we have a motion?
Move to
Discussion.
approve B.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
For what did you say, Earl? I'm sorry.
I move to approve the summary of work and engineer's estimate. And then we'll figure out the rest of it during that.
Second.
Roll call, Dixon.
Colmeyer,
Yes.
Gilbreath, No. Franklin,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Seabold. Yes. Morrell,
Yes.
Stroller,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
If you'll bear with me a moment or two, I have been crunching a bunch of these numbers myself, for quite a little while. So let me outline a possible way to get there, and then you can pick it apart. And I'm gonna use rounded numbers.
You're looking at item C.
I'm looking at item C.
All right.
700,000, phase 3. 400,000, phase 4. That's $1,000,001. Issue a new bond for $1,000,001. That bond is to be repaid with not a $6 adder, but a 15% adder. And by that I mean we apply 15% to the existing rates, which produces the same money as $6 on every bill everybody's bill. And the difference being, if you're paying a minimum bill of $25 and I hit you for $6, that's 25% increase. And I feel like the 15% spreads it across the high to the low in a much fairer way. And with that, I can stop, or I can answer questions. I frankly am very concerned about tapping the electric fund for those monies.
I agree.
Yeah,
And so,
definitely.
as bad as I hate to, let's go get more money, borrow more money, rather than wipe out our savings.
But we also know how bad the equipment is there also.
Yes, so I consider phase 4 to be more critical than anything else here.
It is.
If phase 3, if the pumps go down in phase 4,
Phase 3 don't matter.
yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, we only have one pump now
Yeah.
that's working, and it's kind of wheezing a lot.
I like your plan. Anyone else have comments? There's one way to
I'm
do
fine,
it.
I'm fine with the idea of 15%, I mean, it's all about the same dollars.
Yeah.
I would put one reserve in that. As this falls in place and things shape up and work out, that we remove part of that 15% just as soon as possible. But that's just here's a thing to take care of down the road.
You could readjust it,
Yes,
especially after the bid comes in. And
after the bids and we can find any more stray dollars here or there or whatever. I guess I'm saying 15 would be a cap.
And we don't have anything left on the AMI after we're done doing AMI, Russ?
You're gonna have to put it closer, I can't hear.
Well, you should have been here.
Derek is asking if we have anything else left on the AMI money.
There will be about $200,000 left on the AMI if we award the bids, to one of the lowest 2 bidders.
In round numbers, we've got $1,700,000 for AMI funds, and we're looking at $1,400,000 plus for a bid. So the $250,000 is about what's there.
I don't think we can commit that to anything yet,
No,
until we get the job done.
Yeah.
I didn't say that, I was just thinking about your readjusting later.
Yeah. Bring that money forward to adjust it. Absolutely. Everybody's gotta remember this stuff.
it'll be in the minutes.
well, I know that AMI is a very important project, and Earl will probably throw something across the table at me. 'Cause I know he's been working on that for years. But it's just hard for me to think about us going borrowing more money. And we're raising rates on the customer.
Let me give you one other long range reach.
I knew I was gonna pull up something.
I had this in plan of mine earlier, but I backed off from it some. we're overfunded, or not overfunded, we're advance funding our water McMurtry loan. We've got over $1 million there, advance funding. And I would look seriously at using part of that to buy the water meters in this AMI thing. Now, the financial people will tell you, yes, it probably could be done, but ooh, that's one you want to stay away from, because what are you doing to yourself 2026 and 28? Supposedly our McMurtry funds will pay off in 2026. But the language is there that tax extends to a drop date of 2030 if they're not paid off. Tax stops whenever they are paid off. So if you pulled some of those dollars from there, you're probably the tax payments for ways. And what you will be faced with as council in 2026 or thereabouts, you reach a point where you've paid off your water bonds. That tax could end, or you can go to the citizens and ask for some of that tax back to meet general expenses and so on. And you're closing that door if you do too much of this.
Can you legally take that money, Bryce?
Well, we discussed that there's an argument that you can, there's an argument that you can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't think you could.
I mean, well, there's arguments can be made both ways. I mean, if the public said, you know, and really it comes down to this list of items that we said that McMurtry, there's 8 items, and never on any of those items did it say, or other improvements that you might come up with. However, in the upper language, it does say for capital improvements. And then it lists the items, you know, 8 specific things. And then in a later part where it talks about that, it says that the tax comes up with respect to the improvements subject to this tax, which, you know, would seem to indicate those 8 things. So, you know, do you want to keep faith with the public? The public voted, you know, and they voted that in strong, you know. Do you want to keep faith with them and have that come off early? Because the way it was drafted is the latest of 30, but as soon as that note is paid off. And I know historically, at least the time I've been here, the city councils have always been very proud in paying things off early. So the question is, could I write it? Yes. Could it be subject to a taxpayer suit saying, wrong call, Bryce? Yes. You know, that's the short answer.
But I think that shows you how much this has been explored from all angles.
But I mean, we spent 45 minutes on the phone together with Alan Brooks, who does this, you know, does financing for a living and does sales tax questions for a living, and we argued it every which way, and it's. Do you want to comment, Alan?
Bryce, I think you hit the overview pretty well. I mean, it's one of those deals that can go either way, and I think we concluded at the end of the conversation it made more sense to take maybe a little bit more conservative view, what, you know, we think the taxpayers might want to interpret it. But again, the quicker you get the debt paid off, the quicker you can either terminate the tax or ask the voters to extend it, modify it, but it would require a vote at that point.
I just think at some point we're gonna have to quit borrowing money. My opinion.
I don't disagree with you, Bill, but things have to keep functioning.
No, I agree.
Yeah, you know, where is that magic point?
But what is necessity and what is not necessity? That's where I'm at.
Phase 4 is necessary.
Yeah.
AMI.
AMI is the key to your city in the sense that you don't get any revenues until those meters are read and read properly. And AMI can do that for you, much better than what's.
I don't know how old the city is, but I think we've been doing it a long
We've been doing
time.
it for a long time, and I'll guarantee.
And I think revenue comes in every month.
And I'll guarantee you, as AMI gets in place and moves down the road, we're gonna be looking back saying, gee, I don't think it was ever right back there somewhere.
Well, you're probably right. But Just gotta quit borrowing money.
I think if you'd
But
seen
you've already borrowed
pictures,
the AMI money.
seen pictures of our last dog bite on one of our water meters, might be a little extra
Still,
Incentive.
incentive.
years and years and years and years and years and years. So I'm not gonna base my decision on one dog bite. It's not gonna happen.
Well, it's not the only one. We've had
I'm
numbers
just
since I've been
saying.
here.
We've been talking about this for years. So,
It's next to impossible to hire any more meter readers. Nobody wants the job. I can't, we need them, we can't find them.
I might just make a general comment on AMRs. I mean, I'm not an engineer, not our specialty. I mean, there was a period of time, 10, 12 years ago, don't quote me on that, but I mean, AMI was kind of cutting edge stuff, and these communities are out there doing it, and it seemed like people were kind of out there on the edge. I mean, it's pretty much standard operating procedure now. I mean, you're not on the front end of this, you're on, probably more on the back end of it. And again, I'm not saying that from the standpoint it's right or it's wrong. I mean, one, typically, I mean, the thought process is they tend to pay for themselves over time. As older meters slow down, these newer meters don't, okay? So you're gonna collect revenue that you would otherwise not be collecting with a meter that slows down, and you're just collecting what you're supposed to collect. And then again, the theory that you have personnel costs that you don't require when you have a system like this that eliminates those, that allows those jobs to either be eliminated or to be repurposed for some other work within the city. But they tend to, depending on how old your meters are, I mean, that's gonna be the driving factor in terms of how quickly this pays for itself. But if you've got meters that have slowed down, and, I mean, a lot of communities reported that they've been very happy that they did it after the fact, because their revenues essentially went up. And again, not by virtue of a rate increase, but by virtue of the fact people were paying for the water they were using. So just a general, high-level thought on that.
We had a rate increase and a better meter. Nobody will live here.
Other thing you pick up with AMI is your ability to do SCADA, and the ability to, like people to pick up their phone, look and tell exactly where the problems are, same with water. And there's other things that come along after.
no, I 100% agree with that when you do it. It's tough for me to tell someone I've gotta go raise their rates,
I understand.
because we want a luxury.
I
Yeah, I would
disagree
I
with the
would
term
classify-
luxury.
Yeah, I would too. It's a cost of doing business and trying to reduce the cost of doing business.
Yeah, I would say you're placing a fee on a sewer utility to create funds that are rebuilding the sewer utility. I mean, you're placing the cost where it is. This isn't going for salaries. This isn't going for more employees. This is going for repairs. And what it allows you to do is you don't have to put that master sewer plan up on a shelf. You're going to be able to say, we did it. We actually commissioned a plan, got the plan, approved the plan, and implemented the plan. Not like we did for water. And we did do it for water. New water source, lines that, made the commercial park active, improved them everywhere, and then we went out north of town and we improved all those lines. And I'm not telling you in 26, when that tax comes off, there might not be some more water work, but you implemented a plan, you funded it, and you did it. I mean, that's the way you've got to look at it. On water meters, all I've heard is 15 years of inability to get those in, pulling people off other jobs, and it's actually reached the stage of inability now. And of course, we went out and we borrowed that money for that specific purpose. And none of it, none of it's fun, but we did have a planning, what we didn't do is we didn't have an increase this year, We passed the budget without an increase. That got stopped, but we then had our planning meeting after that time and talked about what should we do. And we came up with, we ought to do, AMI, and we ought to implement the rest of the master plan, and that's sitting around the table for 8 hours, at least, that's what we talked about doing. And today and for the next 45 days is gonna be, are we gonna do it?
Well, I'll go along with whatever we need to do. It's just tough to continue. Seem like every 6 months we're borrowing money for something. And with our sales tax, we're going down. One thing's going up, one thing's going down, and somewhere it's not gonna meet in the middle anymore.
Agree.
Thing that really concerns me is looking at the stuff that was in the packet that was last renovated in '98, and it's a 2 million gallon a day capacity, and we're down right now to a flow rate of, what is that, 60,000 or 600,000?
600,000.
Yeah. I mean, we have a problem. We're in a bad way.
It's concerning all around. I won't deny that.
But before we did phase 1 and 2, there was times that rain would put you at 1,200,000, 1,600,000.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure rains right now puts us up some.
I would like to know how that, what you call Bryce's Stroller project, how it got cut out of that.
Oh, I've already emailed him. We're gonna get those. We're gonna get that put back on.
Guys, the other thing that we're not talking about here, and Larry has the exact numbers, but we also have another almost $180,000 of water plant improvements that are gonna have to be done, some actuators out there, and so, but if we start talking about excess funds, and are there, where are we pulling funds from to use? I know we're on sewer right now, this is the main discussion, but we do have some other significant expenses that have come up in the last 3 months, at least come up since we did our big planning session together.
Right.
That just goes back to what you're saying, Bill.
$9,000 for a sewer fix
Hmm?
tonight.
All right, let's move on. We'll be here till midnight.
Move on to item D.
I think we need to see.
Approval or just discussion?
That was just discussion.
Well, I mean,
Just wondered if you wanted to get your guess.
well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna probably bring you
Proposal.
an adder ordinance, that will have $6 or 15%. We can give it to you both ways and see how that gets approved. And we're talking about that, that's one thing, we are talking about that for these items to come for the 17th. Is everyone gonna be here on the 17th? That's a week before Christmas.
Very important week. I have to do the shopping.
I should be here.
Okay. Well, it's important for those that want to approve the borrowing, we need at least 7 votes for that, or it can't occur, so it's gonna be important that,
Christmas is 8 days later. You can get anywhere in 8 days.
yeah. Anyway, just to
That's
let you
what
know
I'm
that's.
thinking
Huh?
about. Nothing.
Bryce,
I'm not talking about
we'd
Christmas.
like to go out for bids on award the bid on the AMI the 3rd if possible.
Yeah, one of the problems is that I'm flying somewhere tomorrow, and I will be back at your next meeting. but I will have very little conductivity in the in the tropics where I'm going on a mission.
Yeah, he's going.
Oh, this is a mission, is that what we call now?
That's the right term to use.
Yes, we're calling
Bryce actually deserves this at least once a year.
Yeah, he was
Hey,
on
Bryce.
mission.
I'm going the opposite direction. I'm going to Montana, and I'm not sure I'll be back by the
Well,
7th.
yeah, you're right, if you're going there.
Are you going on a mission?
Yes, and I'm driving.
Has to do with brotherly love. We'll move on to item D, consider to take action.
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
See you, Russ.
Yeah, don't go too far.
With respect to resolution number
I heard it.
2018-14, authorizing professional service agreement and authorizing Municipal Financial Services Incorporated to seek financial proposals for utility system improvements containing other provisions related hereto. Come on. Is John Wolf.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I know you have a lot of agenda items behind, and I'll just pass this around. Hopefully I made enough copies.
It works.
You have the last one.
Question, the previous discussion addressed, what do we potentially, that's your copy here.
Just didn't want me to get it.
Yeah.
If the council wants to move forward, look at borrowing funds, we were approached by staff at a dollar amount that you would need to address phase 4, to address part of phase 3. So we put together a budget that you have in front of you based on a request that you would need an additional $1 million for the sewer system project. And what we wanted to show you tonight is the costs associated with doing that financing, and also give you a timetable. And so as we move forward, this particular agenda item authorizes our firm to prepare a package that we send out to multiple banks like we have in the past, and then entertain quotes, interest rate quotes, come back to you on the 17th meeting. So tonight we need to solidify is the project amount, which we have at $1 million. I will address, as we look at funding this particular project and the projects you have funded in the past, that as governmental entities look at funding capital needs nationwide over the last decade, that you're still in the lowest borrowing period in the history of the United States as far as rates. So as you look at addressing capital, and when capital needs to be addressed, it is the toughest decision to continue to decide to borrow. But as you look at all of your infrastructure improvements, from utilities to streets, transportation, and so forth, that as you look at what you address in your tenure as counselor, as mayor, is what do you get done, and when is it the least expensive time to advance fund capital? And that's been the last 7 to 10 years. And so that doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't make it any easier on the family that's struggling and they're looking at how they're going to pay this utility rate increase. But as you look at everything globally, you are still in one of the lowest borrowing periods, in this case, a 10-year financing. And so at a point in time, we're going to be out of this market, and we're going to be back to traditional, where you look at rates not at 2 and 3%, but 5 and 6 and 7%. That's when this becomes a lot more expensive. So just letting you know, you're still in a low interest rate market, but we've seen some jumps in interest rates. We'll see how that continues over the years to come, but I at least wanted to address that your return on your investment is better now than it will be if it goes back to where rates were a decade ago. So be glad to answer any questions. What we have here is the breakdown of all the costs associated with this, and like I said, it had a timetable that lays out when we would submit packages out to banks and then come back to you on the 17th with bids at hand, and then we would look at it, closing the transaction. You would get receipt of the funds by the end of the year, and then the second page addresses what the amortization schedule will look like, assuming a 3 3/4% interest rate. Not sure where this is going to fall. When we say we send out packages to banks, we send those out to your area banks, and we send them out to state, regional, and national banks. And so interest rate, we're guessing at this point in time, hopefully we'll be up below 3 3/4. We won't know until we get those packages out, and it takes us about, we'll get a package out this time next week, and then the banks usually like a couple of weeks to kind of mill through this and determine their level of interest. Be glad to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Talk about the collateral, John.
We are planning, this is, we've had a transaction that we did last year about this time. We had a transaction that we did in 15 that was for sewer system approved, the first phases of the sewer system upgrade. And this is similar to the one we did in 15. This is solely sewer revenue that we're pledging on this transaction. So this is what I would call plain vanilla look at by a bank. They can very easily pull your sewer revenues and expenses over the previous years and determine your ability to pay that back. And so with this particular increase that you're speaking of and your coverage level as far as revenues over your expenses, we feel that this is a good credit risk for the banks. And so hopefully you'll get some interest from multiple banks, but we'll see how that turns out. So, but that's the Social Security on this. This is like I said, a 10-year term, and you're going to be addressing improvements that will have a life longer than 10 years. But this is one thing that was mentioned by Bryce and Russ. You have a history of going out, applying a fee, rapidly amortizing that fee, then getting it off, and so this continues that process, or that direction that the city's always taken in borrowing.
Do the open market folks meet again in December, or are they done for the year?
I think they meet one more time, so there is potential now. There have obviously been adjustments in rates. We'll see kind of how that turns out with the banks, how they react. Typically by a week from now, what happens is all the banks, if they think there's going to be a 0.25% jump in the federal fund rate, they already build it into their rates. They say, well, we see it coming, and so they don't necessarily respond post, but they actually kind of start building that into their assumptions on what they're going to lend at. But we will apprise staff as we're talking to different banks. But we have whenever we give you a rate like tonight, we get indications from a couple bigger banks. Say, hey, where would you think you might be? Where do you feel comfortable with this credit? And that the 3 3/4 was a rate that they felt comfortable with on 10 years. Like I said, we'll see.
Thank you.
Question? Go ahead.
I do think it's important that we make a determination tonight, because John's going to put these packets out. And as an example, if the project amount needs to be 1.1 million versus $1 million, they'll need to make that adjustment, because, we'll be receiving quotes from banks for a specific dollar amount, so.
You said 1.1 and Bryce had mentioned 1. Where does that shake out?
If you go look at phase 3 and phase 4 cost, that's what we're trying to cover. I think it takes most of the $1.1 million to cover it.
And Mr. Hicks, I'll make, you were on one of the conversations we had when we were talking about, using these other funds. And I think you were kind of working a little with less information at that point, and you kind of threw out the number of $1 million. All right, you've obviously looked at the numbers more since then, so if, again, we were basing that on a conversation before Mr. Higgs had as much time as he's had now to study the numbers or the estimates in more detail, so. Again, if we can make that number $1 million, 10-year maturity, I mean, the size of the transaction is gonna go up by $100,000, it's your call. But again, we do need to leave here with knowing that.
Right, we're contemplating the amount, is it 1 million or 1.1 million? 1.2, what do we think we really gotta have for this project? And you leave here with a number. Folks, I'm at $1 million. Anyone gonna make a motion either way?
I'm looking at 720 and 428. That's $1 million,
2 million, one.
3.15 or
And
something.
then we have $160,000 that, from the grant, given out.
Yeah. Yeah, $160,000 grant.
Off that.
Yeah, so, right, there we go,
So that's
560.
528.
Yeah, $1 million stands up.
You're at 995.5. That's $1 million.
Yeah. In summary.
Yeah.
I think we're sending it out there. Financial thing. Need a motion from the council if they agree.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Dixie, on item D.
Is this a motion on just the dollar amount, is this a motion
Dollar
on the
amount of your
resolution?
contract.
Okay.
Colern.
Where are we at? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
1 million.
Let's clarify that.
Yeah, what are we voting on right now?
This is D, this is D.
For them to just go out and seek proposals, right?
Right.
Here's kind of what we would anticipate, okay? If you all adopt the resolution, all right, John would put together a bid packet, all right? He worked with your staff in a week or so, get that bid packet out, all right? That would again go out to all of the financial institutions. We would require them to have a bid received here in City Hall on December 17th, which is the date of your next meeting. The bids will only be good for that day because they don't want to be hanging out there in terms of interest rates moving. We'd have a meeting that evening, and it would be contemplated that if we're kind of in the range of where these interest rates are being projected, that both the authority and the city council would vote to approve those, all right? Again, that takes a 3/4 vote under state law, which would mean 7 of the 9 board members would need to be here voting yes, or the council and the trustees of the authority. And so this is kind of the litmus test, is this what you want to do? Because the last thing, I mean, you don't want us going out and submitting packets to banks, all right? And because the banks will spend a lot of time working on these proposals and then come back and we don't want to do the deal. Because that means the next time we need to go borrow money, there's gonna be a reluctance to participate. So so essentially you're kind of given a preliminary okay to move forward with the financing of $1,055,000, subject to coming back with rates and the ranges that we're hoping. Rates can certainly go up, they can go down between now and then. We'll have an indication of that. As John mentioned earlier, rates are up. From a year ago, they're probably up 75, 80, almost 0.8% probably. They hit their all-time low in June, July of 2016. They've kind of been gradually going up since then in a more accelerated way this calendar year. So that's in some ways an answer to the question, do we need to do this now? Okay, I think the thought is that if you think construction costs are going down, or if you think interest rates are going down, we should wait. But if you think that rates and/or construction costs are going up, this is probably the time to try to lock those in, unless you simply don't do the project. That's it, man.
Questions? So to be clear, Dixie, we are voting to consider an advertising package with this consulting firm to put them together for $1,055,000. We have a motion?
We have a motion now.
Thank you.
I say motion, I thought, just making sure. I'm going off memory. Roll call, Dixie.
Goldar.
Yes.
Gilbert.
No.
Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Morrell.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Thank you, John.
Thanks. We'll see y'all 7th.
Yeah,
All right. And probably some between then.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hanging in here with us. Item 11, approved application for OMRF, normal retirement pension for Christopher P. Simon. He's retiring. And he wants his benefits. So, approved normal retirement benefits for Mr. Simon.
Motion approved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Dixie.
Goldar.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Morrell.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. We'll move on to item 12, which is consider approval resolution 2018-13 of the City Council, City of Perry, appointing Dixie Johnson, I guess a person, to serve on the election committee of the Oklahoma Municipal Power Authority. That was previously held by now Senator Hall. He cannot occupy that position any longer. So we have people who want to recommend Dixie to him.
Motion
And you
approved.
want to do that, Dixie?
I would be
All
honored
right.
to.
Motion, or we go.
Roll call.
Goldar.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Morrell.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to item 13. Discuss partnership between the City of Perry, Oklahoma and the Stillwater Medical Center Authority, an initiative to retain hospital and medical health services for the community. We do have Stephen Taylor with us tonight. He is the CEO of Stillwater Medical Center, Perry Branch. He's here to talk with us this evening if you have any questions. Background. As you can see, we have a lot of verbiage with this. But what it amounts to is, folks, we need to consider a sales tax to support our medical services. As a city-sponsored tax, it would have to be at least 1%. I talked to county commissioners, got on their agenda. I want to talk to them about this also. And if it goes through the county, it can go to the 0.75% sales tax countywide. It would actually raise more money than a 1% would locally only. So as we look at this, and if you want us to continue to go through this research, and we just got to discuss it. We got to put Bryce to work, put me to work, some of you to work, and let's see what it goes.
Just,
Stephen is here. He informed those of us who serve on the board of the hospital that are on council of some of the considerations that Stillwater Medical is considering. And those are itemized in here for you to look at the bullet points on page 5. So they assured us that these things will continue. And I hope that they change the market drastically for the hospital and help it out. we don't want our hospital even considering closing its doors, no matter who the manager is. It would be a detriment to the future of this community greatly, greatly. So I'm putting it to you to think about it, consider it. I'll bring back anything I can from the commissioners. And hopefully we can partner in this some way to make it happen and we can get some operating capital for the hospital.
Well, that's, from what I've seen so far, I think that we should exhaust every opportunity there before we push anything forward. I mean, to me, the county reaps the benefits of this hospital being here as well. You know, as a whole, we're all grateful that it's here.
Yeah.
And if we could get that solution, I think that'd be a better solution.
The county
So,
would allow us to keep the hospital going and also raise the level of our ambulance service up toward paramedic,
Yes.
which I think is a very vital need.
We are EMTs in that right now, and we'd like to get to paramedic stage.
And also point out that the 3/4 cent adds, it makes a total of 10%, where the 1 cent would make it 10.25%. And I don't know where the magic is, but a 10% fund tax just doesn't seem near as big as a 10.25.
Well, maybe we're just.
It's like when they sell gas or sell cars, it'd be like 9.99. Your gas, I never figured out why all the gas is 0.9.
make you feel better.
You have to,
Yeah.
have to go back to when my dad was working for a legislator, and the guy was just nuts. I could never figure out why he was.
We do have to keep in mind that we do have deadlines to move this forward, so it's not like we could sit on it for 6 months and wait and make certain that they do exactly what they've mentioned they're going to do, because we do have deadlines. It's important that we move this along as fast as possible.
So you guys will have meetings with the county? Is that-
Yeah, I'm going to their meeting next Monday.
It was December 13th, but I mean, what we talked about was doing it on the general election.
Right.
Which was a January 31st date. So we would have more time to prepare it and do that, or you could do it in March, which is a early January, like January 3rd or something. But the other one, to do it sooner is by December 13th, which means you'd need to do it at your next meeting, and Gordon, you're gonna go speak, you brought that up, that you're gonna go talk to the county about it, correct? So it may be a little premature to do it that quickly. Stephen, you were okay with April, right?
Sure.
I mean, that worked for you, so.
I've later thought, and I would really prefer to back off to maybe March, but April's fine too.
Well, I mean, we have time, and we don't have to set that now. We just have to have it in there before the time we're supposed to, so. We can bring this back and discuss it on the 3rd, and we can discuss it on the 17th. You know, a lot of these things, sometimes you discuss it till people are tired of hearing about it, and, you know, say, let's vote on this, so.
I think we need at least a couple weeks better to talk to the right people.
Yeah. What do you think, Fire Chief, EMS head?
He slept.
It'd be a great idea.
But do we need to keep our hospital?
Yeah, absolutely. I did notice in the discussion here on this page that it talks about stroke victims, but there's a lot of things taking place at the state level for what we call time-sensitive medical conditions, and strokes falls under that. But there are trauma and time-sensitive medical protocol that comes down on us anyhow. So the closest facility to us that can treat those time-sensitive medical conditions, the closest facility for us would be, the closest level 3 would be Stillwater Medical Center in Stillwater. So
We do not have a level 3 in Period.
no, sir. Not in the other closest region, the level 3s near us would be St. Mary's or Bassett Enid. Yeah.
That's 40 miles.
Okay, Thank you for the discussion. I'll get back to you as council at our
Let
next
me
meeting.
just say, what does it take, not that we would do that here, but what would it take to get Perry to a level 3? Is it just
You
different
have-
certifications?
Yeah, 24-hour,
Specialist as well. I mean, you got certain specialists on call 24/7.
yeah, you have to have an
No, I understand. I
anesthesiologist.
just didn't know what it would take to do
That's a
that.
piece of it.
Yeah, you have to have a physician in the ER, an anesthesiologist, a general surgeon, and I believe an orthopedic surgeon. To be a level 3.
All right, sorry, Gordon, go ahead.
Anything else? We all good with this? Okay, thank you. Item 14, thank you, Stephen. Good night. Drive careful. Item 14, consider approval of ordinance number 2018-22 of the City Council of the City of Perry, Oklahoma, amending Chapter 11, Article 2 of the Perry Municipal Code 2018 supplement by addition of a new section of 11-217 entitled Mausoleum Rules and Regulations. That's pronounced by the amendment of subsection 3 of section 11-211 to chapter 18 entitled Fee Schedule, providing for a fee for opening, closing mausoleums, niches, increasing the fee for opening and closing cremation graves, and increasing the fee of services are performed on a city legal holiday, Saturday, providing for repealer savings, codification, severability, penalty, effective date, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Attorney, Ms. Clerk, this is, you have a map that you passed out showing the locations of these. Far over on the west side, north corner,
Section B.
section B. B is in very good.
We actually met with the sexton and said, where should these be? Because I think the last time we talked about, we recognized that if you allow them to be anywhere, then it's gonna block the headstones from the roads in a major way, because these aren't small. I mean, they come up, they come up fairly high. So there's a number of spots. This was a spot that was right up front, right next to the fence. And then there's spots that you talked about in portions which aren't yet surveyed.
Right.
But they have rock outcroppings, and it's very difficult to dig a hole. It would be much easier to just dig down, a little bit to put the footing in for the mausoleum. So I spent more time on this. We met with the sexton. I completely reconfigured the ordinance, took out a lot of stuff that wasn't needed, and went over this with the sexton. And I think that we ended up with a decent product. Now, is this exactly what the person that requested wanted? Well, maybe not, because it won't be allowed where they have lots, but it will be allowed. You need to think about that. I mean, if somebody wants a mausoleum, they want it in there at their family plot. But the thought was, is that fair to all the other headstones, all the other, and she thought it wasn't, and just in discussing it, we thought that, a separate place to put this would be appropriate. As the cemetery expands, maybe we come up with a different idea, but this is what we've come up with today.
And I believe we already have one there in this particular section.
It's the Murrow, the
It's
Murrow
just
one
over
that was.
Yes, back to it.
That is in section B, not in C.
It's a split level, I think.
In section B or C?
It's in,
It's in C.
It's in C.
Yeah.
Got it.
And where is the rock outcroppings that bother us?
Dixie,
I believe they were down here past,
they're off the sheet. They're off the sheet. We still own,
They're not in this.
they're in the white part.
White means rock.
Where
I
it says
guess.
Graceville
Well,
Cemetery.
Lots of rock.
It's not platted.
Yeah.
Well, we already have, the only question I have is we have mausoleums in section C. And these are along the north fence road, it appears. So could it not also fit in section C on the back
I
side?
believe a lot of those lots in C are already sold.
Okay.
We had to pick lots that weren't already sold because we couldn't change it after somebody bought it.
Thank you, that's good, okay.
We really didn't have an ordinance for mausoleums. So
We did.
people that have bought lots just kind of assuming that they could put one there. Is that correct?
I don't know. The only one we've ever had is Murrow, and he was in the concrete business, and that's what, you know, that's what he wanted. I mean, I remember when the item came up, it was in concrete. He was going to have a concrete mausoleum. I don't think we've had a single request or anything until recently about this, but you know, it.
Well, I mean, it's good to have an ordinance. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think we just want them kind of scattered all over the place.
Well, and maybe to answer your question, the people that are requesting now did not purchase the lots, they're family lots that they were going to use, so they were
Say
not
they
purchased with
inherited
that
them?
in mind.
Is what you're saying?
Right.
So we would refund the money to them, or just trade them lots or something.
Yeah, we'll
whatever.
trade them lots. We'll
Yeah.
make accommodations like that. Anybody that wants to come over here, yes, we will do that.
Now, can I ask that do they have family buried in the area, I guess, where?
Yeah.
Where are you going with that, Bill?
Well, I mean, no, I'm not going anywhere with it. I just wanted to know. I mean, I respect their wishes that they want to be buried as a family,
Yeah.
but throughout life policy, there's always amendments to policy, and
The only,
it has to start somewhere.
the only concern I have is that we have one that's not in that location and they already have their lots, just like in that case, you know. Do we know what section that one is, or where, I mean, would they be visible in those locations? I mean, would they block other?
I believe from what Laura Lee said, they would be blocking others, but I cannot tell you what section it's in.
Okay.
Do they have the appropriate lots now to build a mausoleum? I mean, size-wise.
They have extra lots and they realized that they would have to use more lots that they would have to use 3 for 2 of them. They know that.
So, and they have those. They have all 3.
Yes, they have money.
And the current mausoleum is in this general area.
Pardon me?
The current mausoleum is in this general area, to the north.
In the general area of what?
Of the, where we're
Of the-
proposing.
Oh,
we're
okay.
talking about.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I
not in the
understand.
general area where they have
Yeah.
lots.
It's right along the, to the.
Right along the road.
Harmony Circle there.
Mhm.
You know what we could do on, if you wanted to, I'm just making a suggestion. If you look at 3, mausoleums shall be permitted on the northeast corner of section V, and such other locations as may be surveyed and open for mausoleum use, or as otherwise designated by the section. So for instance, if there was an area where it wouldn't block headstones or the like, you know, wouldn't block that policy, it could be allowed there. That makes this a little bit more open if that's better.
But that's still maybe not going to get them to where they want.
It may not get these people, but it does make your ordinance better perhaps.
But it also could make it a little more confusing for the
I
person
agree.
that has to determine.
You got to put them in V, but then the next guy comes and goes, "Oh, I want it over there."
Yeah. And
Pay
on
for the survey.
That can probably
Okay,
work,
yeah,
if
that-
our ordinance says, yeah, maybe we can put it.
Well, as far as, if you pass this ordinance, I mean, that's what it is going forward. It's just this instance that I have, just out of respect for them, you know, that's where I'm, yes, I think we need the ordinance, is what I'm saying. And I think
And I
that,
have to agree with that.
that going forward, that's what we do. I just,
Mhm.
I have a little.
You want to
struggle.
grandfather the owner of those lots?
I'm not
Yeah.
saying that 100%, I just wanna think of them as well.
Mhm.
I
As they
have
brought-
talked to those people, they've been in my office and talked about it, and they were very congenial about it, and they understood that we didn't have an ordinance, and they were just inquiring, could they?
Right.
You know, it's what they wanted, but I don't think they're gonna be, maybe disappointed, but not
Okay.
completely broken up if it, because they understand that it might not
I
work
just
out.
wanna make sure we're considering it.
And we need to encourage them to come back and talk some more, not just shut them off.
Need a motion, please?
Motion to approve ordinance number 2018-22.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Dixie.
Colburn,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
Hicks,
No.
Ahern,
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow,
Yes.
Sterling,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Motion to approve, to amend ordinance. That number 3 bothers me. I think you've left it wide open for any sort of challenges that you can get down the road.
Section.
Oh, you're saying,
Item
what?
3,
I thought he was saying put that in there, my bad. Yeah, you're saying you didn't want that in there.
I'm saying we need to work on it a little bit, such other locations as may be served in open uses as designated by Sexton. I'm not sure who ought to have that call, but that's putting a lot on one person to just say, Sexton, you gotta make this call.
Send it to the planning commission.
No, we could amend that. Well, we could amend that to city council because you're the ones that are gonna have to
Right.
authorize the expenses
Maybe it ought to be
to.
the city council's
Huh?
responsibility.
Yeah, I
maybe
think
ought
it
to
should
the
be,
city
so,
council.
yeah, if you want to make an amendment to that,
I'll amend that to the.
to city council, that would make sense.
You're looking at item 3 under section 1.
Yeah,
1166.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I'll second the amendment with that. Unless it is.
Sorry.
Roll call, Dixie.
Colburn, Colburn,
Did you have a question, Jim, before I say something?
Yeah, I'm confused, I guess. What are we adding to section, to 3?
We're changing the word Sexton.
Approving a new location.
Okay.
City council will.
Okay, so replace Sexton with
Yeah.
council. Okay, I'm fine.
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow,
Yes.
Sterling,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Motion on emergency?
Motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, Dixie, on the motion second.
Colburn,
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Sterling,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. 14, we're now on 15. Consider approval of an agreement for shared services with the Oklahoma Office of Management and Enterprise Services, Appendix C, item 15. This is just a lot of words of online credit card payments, $1 fee that they charge.
Motion approved.
Second.
Squeeze it out. Roll call.
Colburn,
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow,
Yes.
Sterling,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Item 16, deny tort claim of David Haskett and the city clerk to give notice within 5 days of the denial. You see the attachment in section 16, our letter from OMAG, and the recommendation they had, and we're just following those recommendations.
So moved.
There was a copy of the tort claim, also the notice that they handed out to us tonight. So that I understand, was it electric line went out or something? What exactly happened?
If I think about the third page back, you can read Brian's statement, he just wrote up a little
There
paragraph there,
was
of what happened.
Jumper between the lines.
between the transformer and the line.
What's your pleasure, council?
We have a motion.
Earl made a motion.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Comments, questions?
Second. Is there a second?
Roll call, please.
Colern.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Item 17, consider extending time within which to award the bid for the automated metering system for electric and water meters by an additional 15 days from and after November 7th, 2018 to December 21st, 2018, to permit adequate time to review all bids and make appropriate recommendations. We still need that time.
I think you do.
All right,
Yeah, just in case.
I want to make sure.
Motion approved.
Motion.
Second.
Second, right. Thank you. Roll call, Richard.
Colern.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Number 18, item 18, approved notice of advertisement bidding specification for the Camp Tandaco Clearing and Grubbing Services contract. What we've done, we've marked the trail out there and taken a number of interested parties, contractors and such, through the area, walked it out with about 1.2 miles in length, and let them see what will have to happen, what they'll need to work on, and so now we want to put it out to bid. I've got some proposals from 4 different companies, and they varied so greatly, I go, holy crap. So, with Larry's help and Bryce's help, we put together a specification for clearing and grubbing and pay items for it, and we're putting it out to bid. So, I don't want any questions from anybody as to what they're getting paid for.
How are we gonna finance this?
It's already been financed through a bond, or not a bond, but a grant. A Department of, Historical Department and the Department of Tourism provided a grant for this. This
Motion to
is
approve.
phase 1 of a number of phases that we'll.
Second.
Thank you. Comment? None? Roll call, please.
Colern.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Morrow.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Acknowledge, number 19, acknowledge receipt of a new pumper tanker fire truck from Perry Rural Fire Association, the association. Agree that upon the city's completed use of such truck, and when it's declared salvage or no longer useful for the municipal purpose, we transfer the truck to the association for sale or other use. So they're buying it, letting us use it, and they want it back. So we're done.
Second.
Thank you.
How long will it take you to wear that out?
We have one that's about 14 years old now,
Is it wore out?
almost, has 20,000 miles on it.
20,000 miles.
Yes.
Roll call, Nick.
That's hard miles
Go
though.
quick.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Colern.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, thank you. All right, number 20, consider authorizing city manager to close city offices on December 31st, 2018.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
The only thing I would ask is, and I'm for it, but is there any issues with bill pay or anything that we would need to put some notices out or anything like that?
No, but we would certainly put notices out, we do that on a regular basis anyway.
Ready.
Okay.
Roll call?
Coldiron.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Morrell.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Well, I know how good a worker I was on December 31st. That was good on January 2nd. All right, new business.
I don't know if mine's new business, but where are we at on the lights on Fur? Because I'm done with it.
We're still waiting on parts.
All right. All right.
Parts is parts.
Some of those parts, the folks down in Florida that are still trying to recover from the last hurricane, they're scrambling for the same parts we are.
Competition here.
We appreciate everybody's patience, but we'd like to get it done as soon as possible.
Maybe Russ can find a few extra ones down there.
Yeah.
Thank you. I need item 22.
Motion to adjourn.
There you go. Roll call, Lisa.
Coldiron.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.